stream for 2018. The month is August. I can't keep track of months. What you just heard is a little sneak peek into what's going down for next month's challenge. There'll be some YouTube videos about some of the stuff behind this, and then obviously next month's challenge. Some fun things. So a few people, I think both of the people in the live chat, there's 2 people in the live chat today on the live stream who y'all can't hear me. Why can't you hear me? My mic is not muted. My mic is not muted. I'm seeing signal. I don't understand. Why are you saying that there? That's weird. Okay, sorry. Live stream. I haven't, since I don't do Ask Joe anymore, the live stream thing is a little rusty. I'm showing meter. I'm showing that y'all can hear me, so I'm gonna keep on trucking along. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so next month's gonna be a really fun challenge. Make sure you stick around for that. Nadim and Ben know what I'm talking about. Super fun. So and that's all you get. I'm gonna be withholding 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But this month is all about mixing and the 1-hour challenge. And we had 36 of you suckers submit your mixes and finish the challenge. So way to go. So I have no way of knowing if how this live stream is gonna go. We could all be tired of hearing the same song every time, but we're gonna listen to it over and over and hear all the different mixes and maybe get some feedback and maybe cut it a little bit short if we all get sick of what's going down. But the challenge this month, if you aren't remembering or you haven't checked it out, is to do a 1-hour mix. And I gave you the tracks to one of my songs, an old song, Better This Way. I'm out of coffee. Ooh, gotta fix that. And the challenge was to mix it all in 1 hour with a timer, which should stress you out. I don't use a timer enough, to be honest. I was trying to use one today for some stuff I've got to get done, and it's hard to stick. You can set a timer, then you can just forget it, and then it loses its purpose. But if you actually keep it front of mind and you actually try to work with the timer, it can be really helpful to get you moving. So it's not just a mixing thing, or even a music or creative thing. Whatever you do for work or your day job, just putting yourself up against some sort of a time crunch can be pretty helpful. All right, so enough of me yammering on. Let's switch over to this screen, and let's look at this first submission. So I'm going to go through and pick submissions at random. I've got a random number generator, and the first one up is Jose Velez. I had the chance to have coffee with Jose. He came down all the way from Chicago to Nashville, so that was nice. So by the way, Vipers, if you're ever in town, I can't promise I'll always be able to get with you, but I would like to say hi if we ever get a chance. Come to Nashville. So he says, I made it this month. It was a blast, and I surprised myself that it can be done. Finish with a basic master with compression and a limiter. So let's listen to a little bit of Better This Way, mixed by Jose Velez. First thought, the bass is super loud. It's the loudest thing, and it's causing a lot of the other stuff to get turned down by the way the limiter and the compressor is compressing it. That could be the multiband. You might have gone a little nuts with that. The bass is very loud.
I was blind, thought that I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity.
So here's a little lesson. If you find yourself working on a song, and if I said, let's say, for example, Jose, I said, hey, the bass is too loud, and you're scratching your head saying it didn't sound too loud in my studio at all. I'm hearing a lot of really low frequencies. So if you've got smaller speakers, then the bass might sound fine to you, but there's this stuff happening down 50 hertz and below that's really loud, and maybe that's why the mix sounded okay to you, but you didn't hear it. So that's why it's important to check on multiple systems that produce bass, even if it's exaggerated, to make sure you don't have some craziness down there.
Than it's ever been before. It's better this way. I always believed that you began to bleed. It was unspoken. This is what I need to be the man I am today. It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away. He can't control.
Nice work, Jose. We're going to go through, since everybody, it's the same song, we'll go through a bunch of submissions and maybe listen to different sections of them, not just start at the beginning for each one. But that was good. So generally speaking, the drums are, the vocal and bass are really loud. So you can hear when I sing a louder note, the loudness of that note, you can hear it causing the bus compressor to clamp down. Which can be a cool thing, but it gets to where if I sing a loud note, then the guitars and drums get quiet. You don't want it to be that much. So that's probably a downside of the quote-unquote backwards mixing that I do, is if you put too much compression on your mix bus, then you're going to start to see that pumping where the vocal is causing everyone else to get turned down. Sometimes that can be okay, but anyway. And I will say, Peter in the chat said he wanted to make sure that a melodic bass line got turned up from Joel, which is great. I think the bass line is great. In Jose, in your mix, I think it might be a little too loud, but that's cool, bro. It's an hour mix, man. That's fun. All right, up next is Daniel Burgess. By the way, Daniel just released an EP. Go check it out. He posted about it. I know in the Facebook group, he might have put it in the forum as well. Head in there, go check it out. Support your fellow Vipers when they release something, because, by the way, releasing something is a big deal. And I would argue that probably 20% of VIP members release something on a regular basis, if that, or have ever released anything. So I'm not shaming. I'm just saying, if you're a Viper for a long time and you don't release some sort of music, either your own or someone else's, I'm probably not doing my job right. So here I am giving you that nudge to release something. All right, up next, Daniel Burgess with his mix of Better This Way. We'll start this one from the beginning, maybe click around, see what happens.
Could see, lost in my mind to the insanity. I was numb, thought I could feel. Then you called to me like a siren song. You were calling to me all along. You want to show me what is real. It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been before. It's better this way.
Really like my fader won't move. Really like the balance on this, Daniel. It feels really balanced. Feels really good. Like the only thing I would say on this maybe is the bass might still be a little bit too loud. Where just a little bit. And here's the thing with bass. It's a fun trick. Think about having, if you have a bass, if you want it to be louder, then you probably need to make it have less low end. So if you turn it up to where you hear it well, there's probably going to be too much bottom end, so you need to pull the mic down or pull the low end out a little bit. If you're going to have it lower in the mix, you can probably have a little more bass, so you're not hearing it as clearly, but you're feeling it more. It doesn't work every time, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, especially with a bass line like this where it's really melodic and you want it to be heard. A slightly thinner bass would work. Very well done. Gary's asking how this was recorded. Granted, I released this in 2011 or 2014 or something, years prior to now. This one we recorded in the U-shaped studio. So, right? So that was just a 57 on top, and I think we had a D5 on bottom if there's a bottom mic. Probably went through my Eureka preamp if I'm remembering it right, but I don't know. It's been a long time. Long time. Next up is Charlie Wooten via the random number generator. Those of you asking about the Facebook group, if you just email me, I can let you in, send you an invite. If you go to the VIP homepage in the members area, a lot of people don't know that it's there. I believe it talks about it there, and in the email you get when you join VIP, it says, hey, if you want to join the Facebook group, hit reply back and let us know. Anyway, up next is Charlie Wooten's version of Better This Way. Let's give that sucker a listen. Here we go. So one quick pet peeve thing. When you're exporting your files, this is more new folks do this, don't let it have like 8 seconds or 4 seconds of blank at the beginning. People think the file's broken. Move that start marker so that it exports the start of the song instead of putting silence there. Just a good practice to get into.
Thought that I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity. I was numb, thought I could feel.
Charlie, you are also falling into the bass too loud club, which can happen if you have smaller speakers. It's nice and big and woolly. It's louder than everything else.
Be all alone. You want to show me what is real. It's better this way.
I like the thickness of the vocal. It's kind of thicker than you're used to. The bass is too loud and probably too thick too.
It's better this way. I always believed you were right. I was deceived. I could fight this fight. You just let me walk away. To bleed, it was unspoken.
Gonna skip ahead, listen to some of the end.
It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been. You've been before. The man I was is slipping away. He can't control me anymore. No, you can't control.
right, good work, Charlie. Way to go. And by the way, I recognize entirely that I'm offering critiques of 1 hour mixes. And that's kind of ridiculous because you did it in an hour. But the point here, I've almost made no comments on advanced mixing stuff. So far, the biggest issues I'm hearing are just straight up balance. So far, I'd say everything we've listened to, the bass is just too loud. So pull it down. So that's why when I talk about a 1 hour mix, I can't remember how long in the video it took me, but I want to say I spent 10 to 20 minutes just on the static mix, getting all the levels right. If you rush through that and jump to use your favorite plugin, you're going to end up putting plugins on something that's not balanced yet. So balance it first and take a step back even for a minute if you need to come back and make sure that the balance is right, and then the rest of the work becomes a lot easier. I know I said that in my video. It's worth repeating because you'll hear me say that 1,000 times, and then one day you'll actually listen, and you'll take the time to really balance it, and you'll find, hey, the rest of this got a lot easier. And yes, that bass track has a lot of low end. When I record bass, I like to err on the side of too much low end. I can always take some away. Sometimes it's hard to add some back, but it's completely fair game to take that bass and roll off some low end, even higher than you think is quote-unquote right, because it might just be too much. And doing a high-pass filter at 70 hertz just might work. I did that on a track today. The one Nadeem sent to me had gobs of low end, which was great, and I realized, man, as much as I like all that low end, I got to take some off, and I might still need to take off a little bit more. And I did it with a combination of EQ and a high-pass filter. So there's no rules. Don't let the look of the EQ snag you. All right, next up is Joe Velli. Joe said, could mix your stuff all day long. Well, go ahead then. By the way, if you are a gold member or if you own Mix Practice, don't forget you have every song I've released, the multi-tracks available. So, Joe, if you really want to be mixing my stuff all day, which I don't recommend, but you can if you want to, that's available to you. Here we go. Here we go. You guys really love bass. And Joel's bass, I'm going to text him while I'm listening that everybody loved his bass part so much that so far we're like 5 for 5 on bass being too loud. But it's great. So bring the bass down, get a better balance. And here's one thing. Okay, I'm going to break my own rule. If you find that you can't get the balance right on the bass using the fader, and you find that if you pull it down, you don't really hear it anymore, then it's fair game to stop and put an EQ on there to get rid of some extra low end so you can bring the volume up to a good balance. That said, it sounds like probably a lot of this is just rushing through the mix or maybe being on smaller speakers and just feeling like you need it to be louder. Quick flip over to a reference and listen to how not loud the bass is and all the stuff you love to listen to. Make sure you do that in your studio. Do that several times a week and you'll start to get a better feel for it.
I was blind, thought that I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity. I was numb, thought I could feel. Then you called me like a siren song. You were calling to me all along. You want to show me what is real. It's better this way. It's better today.
Interesting approach to the balance. In this one, the organ is louder than the guitars, which maybe you're a keyboard guy and you like the organ. Typically, you'd flip that around. Organ kind of has a bed underneath everything else. Drums feel a little bit distant. Wouldn't mind to have some more presence. One thing I find a lot of people do when they get drums, especially drums from my stuff, where I usually have some sort of a room mic, or if Tim Horsley does drums for you and sends you room mics, a lot of people just crank that room. And I get it because you're like, this is a real live room mic. I don't get that a lot out of Easy Drummer or whatever. But you gotta be chill with it. You can't push it so loud that the drums, well, you can, but if you're going for a good modern rock drum sound, there's got to be some presence and some closeness of the drums, not all room. So keep that in mind. On this mix, you hear how it basically sounds like I'm listening to the drum kit room mics almost exclusively with a little bit of spot mics. That ratio, that balance should be flipped.
Than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away. He can't control me anymore. It's better this way.
On the flip side, I do like the warmth of the vocal. A couple of mixes have had that little bit warmer vocal, but with all the bass, it makes the vocal sound muddy too. But bass is kind of the big glaring problem I see on this one. So we'll call that one done and move on to the next one. Next up is Adam Rogers. I think Adam is here. Adam's from Brisbane, Australia. And I believe he's here as well. He says, here it is in all of its glory glory. I tried using the fat channel compressors and EQs and have no real idea what I did. Ended up sounding a bit squashed, but hey, only 1 hour. It's time. So no time to read up as you go. That's the way I learned when PreSonus released the new batch of EQs and compressors for the fat channel. They gave me the update for free. And so I just started checking them out, and probably 80% of them, I have no idea what the controls do. So if I couldn't figure it out quickly, I just moved on to the next one. But I found a handful that I really like, which is cool. All right, here's Adam Rogers' Down Under mix of Better This Way. So far, almost everybody has left the 4-second gap at the beginning. It's just interesting.
Here we go. I was blind, thought that I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity. I was numb, thought I could feel.
So bass is not too loud, which is fun to hear. Vocal has too much bass, which is kind of funny. It's got this woo 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 to it. Probably a high pass filter and then some sort of EQ down there, and 200 hertz will take care of that.
You want to show me.
I've got an email going out next week about, or maybe it was this week, about vocals and how you want them to be up front and you want them to feel warm, but you don't want them to have huge amounts of low end because it does come across as kind of muddy.
Than it's ever been before. It's better this way. I always believed you were right. I was deceived. I could fight this fight. You just let me walk away. I was broken and I began to bleed. It was unspoken. This is what I need to be the man I am today. It's better this way. It's better today.
This is really solid. Like, I always take notice of if I start kind of dancing and jamming out to the song, it means there's nothing really in there that's bothering me. So other than the vocal that I mentioned, this is a great balanced mix.
You're slipping away. He can't control me anymore. It's better this way.
I would argue you probably spent more time copying and pasting all those mms around that you could have spent EQing that vocal. I'm just saying. It's way too many mms. What was that?
Better this way.
All right, nice work, Adam. Could use a little more beef out of those toms. And I'm glad you had fun copying and pasting all those around. I think that was outside the realm of what we were going for. Oh, you reversed it. That's even funnier. Makes me sound like Hanson. All right, up next is it Malene? This might be a new member. Pretty new to all this mixing stuff, but here's my take. I love it. New to mixing, did the challenge. Way to go. Used EQ compression mainly, flipped some polarities, added some delay and reverb, as well as some automation there. Very, very cool. I didn't think 1 hour would be so short. That's awesome. It is. It is. You realize I got to focus on big picture stuff, balance the biggest problems, and then kind of go from there. That's really funny. I love it. All right, let's listen to Malene or Maline's mix of Better This Way with a 4-second gap.
That I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity.
This is really great. There's a few things that I would address, but it's got like this big low end to it just overall that I would take down on the bass, on the vocal a little bit, and also on the drums. So really just an EQ on your mix bus would probably take care of it, down at like 60 to 100 hertz. So it's not quite so huge. But the balance I like a lot.
It's better this way.
You got really close to a nice present vocal that has some warmth, but not too much low end. I would say it has still a smidge too much low end, either in the vocal or in whatever effect you have on it, but it's really, really close. I dig it. The only big miss here is you've got some cool stereo stuff happening on the guitars, and you put them in mono to where we don't get that. So only thing out left and right is the organ. So I believe there's at least 3 guitar tracks playing right now, especially in the choruses. I know there's like stereo, like diamond guitars. Those need to be panned out, and then the stereo main guitar probably needs to be panned as well, just to give it some extra width.
It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away. He can't control.
So yeah, on that vocal, there's a frequency that I'd go in and cut that out. You'll be in good shape. Really good stuff. Really good work. You've got a good ear for this. Everything the drums especially feel very natural, but balanced well. I can hear the toms. I'd probably want a little more low end on the toms, but they don't sound like it's all room mics, but it's not all spot mics either. Really, really like the work you did there. Way to go. Way to go. Knocking the challenge out of the park on the very first one. I accidentally just closed it, but that's fine. We listened to a good chunk of it. Up next, David Wardzala says, "Yeah, I finally did one of these challenges. I focused on vocals and drums. I like how the drums turned out. The vocal, not so much. I wish I had time to automate them, blah, 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 Comments welcome. Yeah, I would say this is not an easy, like, mixes itself vocal track. I might have done it on the SM7, which can be great, but can also be annoying. And also my voice can be annoying. And there's this warmth that's there that makes it muddy, and then there's this kind of upper mid thing that's cool and bright until it becomes annoying and chops your head off and you want to punch me. It's totally fine if you want to punch me while we do these things. That's legit. Okay. Better This Way. Who is this? David Wardzala's mix. Let's see if there's a 4-second gap at the beginning. There wasn't. You fell into the bass too loud camp. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I was blind, thought that I could see, lost in my mind to insanity. I was numb, thought I
like the ambient vibe of the vocal. We haven't heard that at all. And I like the sound of the drums too. It's a little roomier drum sound. But it works, and I like the vocal ambience too. Vocal feels a little thick, but I can't tell if it's the excessive bass or if it's the vocal. When the bass is too loud, it makes everything else feel a little muddy.
It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been. Better this way. I always believed you were right. I was deceived. I could fight this fight. You just let me walk away. I was broken. To bleed, it was unspoken. This is what I need to be the man I am today. It's better this way. It's better today.
I really like your approach to the vocal. I do think it's a little too thick, and maybe it's there's some bus compression that gets the vocal lost occasionally, but like when a drum hits too hard, the vocal gets turned down a little bit, but all in all, I really like the balance.
You can't control.
You hear how on like can't control, there's something kind of ducked the vocal down. It could be just the vocal compressor has a slow release, which makes it go like if I'm singing, you can't control, like that kind of thing. It has a little bit of that quality on some of the notes. So maybe the compressor release could be faster. That's a big shot in the dark. I'm not sure, but that might be it. And as ironies and contradictory statements go, the bass feels good in this section. Tambourine's a little loud too, but that's good stuff. All right, let's keep moving. We're gonna move on to the next one. By the way, I'm just going through these using a random number generator so as not to play favorites, because you're all my favorites, like all my children are my favorites. This is Kyle Stare. Kyle says, I like the idea of starting every mix as if you were doing this challenge, then tweaking from there. It's a great idea, because once you start doing it and you lose some of the stress of it, you just end up in a place where you're just being creative and you get stuff done faster. Then you can work on the minuscule stuff for the next couple hours if you need to. But right out of the gate, you get this nice kind of creative push. Instead of going into it knowing, oh, I'm going to be here for days, you say, well, maybe I could be done in an hour. And it becomes this challenge with yourself. So here's Kyle's mix of Better This Way with a 4-second intro.
I was blind.
I really like this one. The bass is just on that border of being loud enough to hear, but not so loud that it's. I think it's either just right or just a hair too loud. Vocal I like. I think it sounds like it's maybe reverb and delay on the vocal, or maybe it's just delay. It feels a little too much. It needs to be more subtle or a different sound. It kind of has a. I'm not sure.
I always believed that you were right.
Kind of sounds like I'm singing in a bathroom. I remember when I did a project in college, and I spent tons of time using this outboard delay to create this space around this vocal because I thought I was supposed to. And we listened, and my partner in the class said, yeah, it sounds like he's singing in a bathroom. And I was so like, huh. So it just feels like a little too much. Maybe because it's stereo, and if you made it mono, it might work. Or maybe just turned it down, or picked a different sound, or EQ'd that reverb or delay to where it's not, doesn't have so much mid-range. That might help too.
Better this way. It's better today than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away. He can't control me anymore. It's better this way.
That tambourine shouldn't be so exposed because I played it poorly. Should have gotten Tim to do it.
It's better this way.
It's best if we hide that.
It's better today than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away. He can't control me anymore. No, you can't control me anymore. It's better this way.
Very cool. This is a great mix. Might be the best one we've heard so far. No offense to anyone. You know this is all subjective. But if I were to add anything to follow up on this, a little more clarity out of the drums. Cymbals are nice and loud, but the snare and toms, maybe even the kick, could use a little more snap to them. Sometimes I just boost around 3 or 4K on the drum bus, if that doesn't make the cymbals go nuts, and get you kind of all of that in one fell swoop. But man, great, great, great work. And Steve Rossbotham, you're correct. We are going to all have this stuck in our head for the rest of the day. Big ups to Kyle Stair for that mix. That was delightful. Up next, Randy Landenberger. Randy took the home studio business class that we launched. He was in part of the live launch back at the beginning of the year. That's fun to see your pretty face here. I guess I don't see your face, but I see your name, and that's also pretty. Randy says, great fun, but minutes ticked by too fast. I had to mix on headphones and didn't get to any panning, so couldn't get the good thump on the kick drum. Didn't get to any panning and also couldn't get a good thump on the kick drum. All right, that's understandable. Here's Randy's mix of, oh, hold on. Hold, please. Here we go. Randy's mix. Here we go.
Here we go.
First impression, Randy, is it's very, very loud. I've had most of the faders here on like I've got a fader this is coming through. Most of the mixes have been on somewhere between -10 and up to unity. Unity being where like if it's not mastered, kind of sounds okay, and -10 being usually where mastered stuff feels about right. I've got yours.
I was blind, thought that I
Kind of down to -20 in spots. So it's hard to say what you did. I feel like you slammed this sucker with a limiter at the end, which is going to affect kind of everything I'm going to say, but it feels like just way too much limiting and compression just on the overall mix. That's going to exaggerate everything else. But let's listen a little bit more.
could see, lost in my mind to the insanity. I was numb, the thought I could feel. Then you called to me like a siren song. You were calling to me all along. You want to show me what is real. It's better this way. It's better today.
So initial impression, the vocal's just very, very loud and very, very compressed, and the reverb's very loud too. It almost sounds like the reverb has its own compression on it as well. I would go. I like heavily compressing a vocal, but after it's balanced, it feels like the vocal is here and the rest of the mix is here, and I'm missing some of that in between. It may even not necessarily be over compressed. It's just so loud.
Was deceived that I could fight this fight. You just let me walk away.
Right there where the vocal stopped and that little guitar riff came in, did you hear how the whole mix got a little bit louder when I stopped singing? That's because the vocal is so loud that it's hitting the limiter or the mix bus compressor and compressing while I'm singing, and then when I stop singing, everything else gets louder, which in small doses can be really great, but here it's a little too much.
It's better today than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away.
And this may all be, honestly, it may be that the vocal was a little too loud, and then the way you limited it, maybe right at the end, could have just completely messed it. Maybe you accidentally hit the wrong setting on the limiter, and it got way too loud. But something to think about. See, this part sounds great. Drums are a little quiet, but otherwise, that's good. So I would say, for you... trying to think. Yeah, I'd say for you, Randy, why don't the next time you do one of these mixes, leave the vocals out, get the instrumental rocking, and then bring the vocal in and kind of deal with it there. Deal with the vocal maybe later than earlier, and that might help kind of address some of that. And also just stay. I've started rendering my mixes to go check them on my headphones without a limiter at all. It's still plenty loud on headphones and in the car, so I just leave the limiter out of the whole process entirely for this reason, so I don't accidentally over limit it, for sure. All right. All right, up next on the random generated mix listening thing is Gerald Dirksen from MB. That's somewhere in Canada, right? What's MB? MB. Verdun MB. Where is that? Manitoba. I knew it. I'm sorry. I should know my Canada better. This is still learning, so don't expect much. Went with a top-down approach, but then I was adding things and deleting things. Who knows? I tried. I know that experience very well. For whatever reason, I missed the track Electric Stereo 1. It's not there. I apologize. I apologize to Joe, the HSC community, the Federation of Galactic Nations, and to my mini dachshund I ignored for a whole hour when she really wanted to play. Not going to fix it as my hour is up. I will wear my shame. That's hilarious. Gerald, I like you. You're hilarious. All right, let's take a listen. Maybe it's better without that guitar, because that guitar had some weirdness to it. I bet you were so confused as to why it's such the long snare drum intro.
I was blind, thought that I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity.
So in comparison to the last mix, this vocal is a little too quiet and there's too much reverb. I'd dial the reverb back and maybe not reverb at all. And see how that works, but bring the vocal up some.
You were calling to me all along. You want to show me what is real. It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been.
The song feels way more relaxed without that hyper dotted eighth note guitar.
It's better this way. I always believed you were right. I was deceived.
I gotta go listen to how the instrumental happens because it's just that one guitar for a long time.
This way.
Oh man. It's like a dance remix. Gerald, I love you. You're amazing. I hope you don't feel like I'm making fun of you at all. This is the kind of mistake I totally would and have made where I'll do a whole mix and forget like the main part. That's really awesome. Really, really funny. And that's what happens when you work in an hour, right? You get in this kind of fluster of you're just kind of doing stuff and going, and you don't stop to kind of understand what's happening, which is why it's really important to do the static mix early, not let yourself touch plugins for a good 10 minutes at least, 20 minutes maybe, and then kind of make sure you got everything there first. But that's completely understandable. And yes, I agree with some of the comments. This chilled down version is not uninteresting, maybe except for that instrumental section. That's too fun. I love it. But it goes to show you, like, it's not unheard of or wrong to mute tracks in a mix. You may come back and the client might say, no, that was like the whole problem. Like that was the whole sound of our mix, and you got rid of it. I need it back, and you have to agree with them. But yeah, and just so you know, Ben Holmes just reminded me, I sent out a mix of that song I played at the very beginning to him and Nadim because they played on it, and I totally forgot. I had a whole bus of background vocals routed incorrectly, so it didn't make it onto the mix. So I do dumb stuff too. All right, here we go. Here is, up next we've got Ken Beck from Texas. Here's Ken's mix. It better be big, Texas. Counting on you. 4-second intro. Drums feel very compressed. I like compressing drums. It feels overly done here.
Lost in my mind to the insanity.
Kind of has this sense of feeling almost like the drums are exhausted because they're being affected so much. I would dial that back or do some parallel where you compress it that much, but you also have an uncompressed version that's blended with it, maybe.
Like a siren song, you were calling to me all along. You want to show me what is real. It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been.
Kind of back on the drum wagon, it feels like all I'm hearing of the kick and the snare is kind of that 400 hertz mid-range, which is the exact frequency I usually try to get rid of so that I can hear some of the lows and the highs there. But it might just be getting lost in the compression, I can't tell.
Always believed you were right. I was deceived. I could fight this fight. You I need to be the man I am today. It's better this way. It's better today.
I like the level of the bass on this. I can hear the bass line without having an excessive amount of low end.
Before the man I was.
Very, very cool. Let's move on so we can get a couple more in before the time is up. Just a reminder, I am choosing these at random using a random number generator website, random.org if you're interested. And it chose the, what's the word, ubiquitous Chris Janton, who is one of the most helpful Vipers we have, and also a very involved Dueling Mixes member. So he's here with his mix of Better This Way. He had his assistant gather the tracks. It's got all the tracks ready, which doesn't count towards the full hour, which I completely agree. Did balancing, EQ, and panning for about 30 minutes. Got a mix that worked for my ears, and then printed it to Logic. Took a 10-minute break. Added a little bit of some mix bus processing on it. Wiggled a few faders. I like it. 1 hour mix done. Very, very like intentional, which you kind of have to be if you're going to do this thing. So let's hear. I'm excited to hear Chris's mix of Better This Way. Oh, and there was no 4-second gap at the beginning. Thank you, Chris. I love it. I think I like the vocal effect. It has like a phasey thing on it, but it's lost. Just very far back, I can hardly hear it. It almost sounds like something's broken in the vocal, like something was out of phase on accident. I know it was intentional. Feels a little too thin, maybe, or just quiet.
It's better this way.
Like maybe you used a doubler effect, is my guess.
Than it's ever been before. It's better this way. I always knew you were right. I was deceived. I could fight this fight. You just let me walk away.
Sounds great, Chris. If I was mixing this, I'd probably go in and find that hoo frequency on the snare drum and pull that down a little bit. But man, I'm coming up. Other than that vocal thing and that snare thing, I'm not really hearing anything else I would mess with.
It's better this way. It's better today than it's ever been before. The man I was is slipping away.
Cymbals might be a little loud, organ might be a little loud, but overall pretty good.
It's better this way.
All right, we got time to listen to one more. Great job, Chris. As always, good work. Got time to listen to a little bit more from Brian Jones. Brian says it's crazy how fast an hour passes when you're so focused. It's a great exercise for me because I tend to second guess my decisions, but in 1 hour, there's no time for that. Exactly. I love it. Here's Brian's mix with a 4-second intro. So right off the bat, I would go find that do-do-do-do-do-do-do note on the snare, find it, pull it out. We're finishing it out with a bass too loud mix. You guys just love that bass line, and I get it. A little too loud.
Thought that I could see, lost in my mind to the insanity.
Vocal, I like the overall tone, but has a little too much low-end muddiness to it.
Then you called me like a siren song. You were calling.
But I like the contrast of it being like a more of an intimate sounding vocal, even though it's kind of a bigger rock mix. But yeah, just less low end would also help it not hit the compressor quite so hard.
It's better this way. It's better today.
Guitars could probably come up to be more in line with the drums and bass.
Before, it's better this way. I always believed that you were right. I was deceived that I could fight this fight. You just let me walk away. I was broken and I began to bleed. It was unspoken. This is what I need to be the man I am today.
Good work, my friend. Love it. All right, we have reached the end. It's time for me to say goodbye, but we do need to announce the winner. And the winner was someone whose mix we didn't get to listen to because there were 36 submissions and we only had an hour. But according to my random number generator, this month's challenge winner is none other than regular contributor Mr. Nate Kelms. Nate, congratulations, brother. I got a $100 gift card with your name on it. Theoretically, it's digital and I haven't created it yet, but let's connect and do this thing. So we will, for the outro music for this month, I will pull up his mix of Better This Way. We'll let that be our outro music for this live stream. And don't forget, if you're in a habit of not doing these challenges, that's fine. Why don't you try to think about doing it next month? Next month is going to require you to work with someone else, a fellow Viper, okay, and collaborate on something. So start kind of thinking about that, turning that over in your head. All the full details, of course, I'll send to you on the 1st of the month. But without any more yapping from me, thanks for being a Viper. I will see you next month. We will have a lot of fun. Let's listen to Nate's mix of Better This Way. Here it comes.
is slipping away. You can't control me anymore. It's better this way. Better to